My name is Steven Sandberg. I am the Assistant Director of Student Media here at Orange Media Network. So I advise KBVR TV, KBVR Radio, and Prism Art and Literary Journal. So before COVID-19, a lot of the work was centered around our studios and our physical spaces up here. Students would have meetings in our conference room. They would gather their teams in our studios. They would do their live shows and post online and get it onto our cable channel 26. So before COVID-19, it was centered very much here on the fourth floor of the Student Experience Center. You know, I'm not sure if it's limited the productions. I think in a lot of ways it's expanded what's been possible with our productions. So in the early days of the pandemic, when none of us knew what we were doing, we were just trying to figure out how do you keep a TV station going when you can't physically come into the TV station. And what the students came up with at the time was shooting videos from home, editing them on their home computers, and posting them to YouTube. And that worked for a little while, but there was really that itch to get back in the studio and use this multi-million-dollar facility that was just sitting there for months. When we did finally get back in the studio, we made sure to create some rules around health and safety, so making sure folks wear masks, initially limiting the number of people that were in the studio, but it allowed us to get back in and start doing that work again. And then what we found over the last year is that working in the pandemic showed us what was possible to get people involved even without them physically being here. So we have students who aren't even in Corvallis who are participating in KBVR TV because for a year and more, we were doing everything on Zoom. So we were learning how to hold meetings on Zoom. We were learning how to assign work on Zoom. We were learning how to upload work to a shared Google Drive and check it and get it to the right people for editing. I really think that KBVR TV has been able to expand what they've been able to do since the start of the pandemic by allowing people to participate even if they can't physically be here on the fourth floor.
So would you say that COVID-19 impacted KBVR TV in a positive way?
I mean, I don't think COVID-19 impacted anybody in a positive way, but I would say that the students made the most of it. And it made us all realize what other resources were out there to keep TV going. So Zoom allows us to have people come to meetings even if they can't physically be here. And by doing that, it made us realize, oh, so-and-so living in Bend can still help out with this show by editing video or writing a script, and we'll just communicate with them online in a way that we just never thought about a couple of years ago because we didn't have to. The pandemic forced us to think out of the box, and now that we're mostly back in person, we're still using some of those things we learned to keep it going at a little bit bigger of a level.
Well, hello. Thank you for meeting with me today. My name is Josh Saunders. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the station manager at KBVR TV. Okay, so essentially, my main responsibility is a lot of the more managerial aspects of running a TV station, and that includes running meetings, that includes coordinating with all of my different producers and my assistant station manager, managing the different shows that are going out and assisting in any direct creations of these different shows as is needed. Mostly that comes in the form of helping delegate work. A lot of what my work is essentially taking different responsibilities, delegating them to different volunteers, as well as teaching volunteers how to do said responsibilities. COVID-19 definitely has affected just how I work as an individual, and also how I work in a team, because I have experience working in teams both in person, and now I've had some experience working in more of a hybrid model. And because of COVID, it definitely it's one of those things that definitely puts a general damper on everybody's spirits, because one of my most personal favorite things about working in a team is meeting face to face and having those conversations. So basically it has been a serious challenge to continue to especially when it was the height of COVID, keeping the spirits up and working with that. And basically those reverberations that have developed because of that have been pretty strong, because we're still basically we're all very anxious about how things are going to be working out from here, like how COVID-19 is going to be looking in the future. And that definitely has a lot of repercussions as a station manager, because I have to be the one to collaborate with my staff and decide what are these policies going to be. Are we going to be meeting in hybrid meetings? Are we going to be meeting completely in person? What we've sort of taken to do is a hybrid format. And what that basically entails is that we have these Zoom meetings set up for people to join, but we also have the option for people to join in person. And having that in-person component when it is safe, and it has been safe to do so, is so important. Keeping that connection, that like physical connection when we can, is absolutely important. And also making sure that we do take the necessary precautions to be remote when necessary. Like we had when the peak of Omicron, for example, we had our meetings completely online. One of the biggest things that I pay attention to is the community that's being fostered in TV, and making sure that community is strong is so important, because when we move into hybrid, if we have to move into a remote, like a completely remote format, I know that our community is still going to be strong, because we've taken so much time to build the community of KBVR TV over these past couple terms.
I think when it comes to remote communication, it's got to be very clear and simple, because when folks are mostly online, they're going to start to get screen fatigue. They're always on their email, they're always on Zoom, they're always on Discord, and after a while, all the messages start to blur together, all the meetings start to blur together. So what I try to do is make things as simple as possible, not send too many messages, and when I do send messages, try to keep it short and to the point. So the meeting is on this day at this time, here's the link. We're looking for camera operators for this show, this time. Just trying to keep it as short and simple as possible, because people online, they just don't have the headspace anymore to take in a 500-word email and read all of it. I think the biggest growing point for the team over the last 2 years has been overcoming challenges when they come up. When we went remote fully in March 2020, that was the biggest challenge that this station ever faced. How do we keep a TV station going when we all got sent home? And from that team persevered and found ways to keep it going. Now we're trying to build on those lessons every day since then. So when things come up, maybe a band cancels that was going to perform in the studio, maybe people get sick when they were supposed to come host a show that day, it's about how do you still make it work even when these obstacles come up. The students over the last 2 years have been so resilient. I've been amazed at how often they're able to step up to the plate and make lemonade out of lemons. That's been so impressive to me, and I've been so proud of them, because when things like this happen, there's no way to plan for it. And it can be very easy to just wash your hands and say, nah, not going to work. But the students are always willing to think outside the box and go, what is possible? How can we make this work, even if it's a little bit different than how we originally planned it? And they've been able to do that, and I see that every week with this team. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of live productions. I think you learn so much by doing it live, because it teaches you to prepare for your show, to practice it, to go over it with your team, and then have to perform live. You learn so much about time management, you learn so much about meeting deadlines, and it's just fun. It's kind of like live theater in a way. The curtain goes up and you've got to be ready to do it. So I miss that. But I understand why we haven't done it as much over the last year, because we're still seeing the effects of COVID. COVID's not over, it's still happening. And we're still seeing the effects of it even today. Bands are canceling when they should be coming in to do a shoot for Locals Live, and they cancel last minute because they get sick and they don't want to spread it to anybody else. It makes sense. So it's hard to plan for a live show, even still in this environment. I understand why we're still shooting and editing things, and I support it. But yeah, I miss doing most of it live, and I hope one day that we can go back to doing a majority of our stuff live.